So today is January 2021, and we're reading from text 22 of chapter 8 of Canto 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Chapter 8 is entitled Questions by King Parikshit. And okay, so this is Canto 2, Chapter 8, Text 22. Text 22. Ya Anushayinam Sarga Ashandasya Cha Sambhava Atmana Bandha Moksha Vyavastanam Swarupata. I'll do now the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, and to Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, and to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavat utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Canto 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 8, text 22. Yovanushainam sarga Achandasya cha sambhava Atmano bandha moksha Yavastanam swarupata Yovanushainam sarga Ashandasya cha sambhava Atmano bandha moksha Yavastanam swarupata Yovanushainam sarga Ashandasya cha sambhava Atmano bandha moksha Yavastanam swarupata
Yovanushainam sarga Ashandasya cha sambhava Atmano bandha moksha cha.
Atmano standa moksha cha.
Vyavastanam swarupataha.
Vyavastanam swarupataha. Yovanusayinam sargam.
Yovanushayinam sarga.
Vasandasya cha sambhavaha.
Ashandasya cha sambhava.
Atmano bandha mokshauscha.
Atmano bandha moksha cha.
Yavastanam swarupataha.
Vyavastanam swarupataha.
Yovanusharanam sarva.
Yovanushayinam sarga.
Asandasya cha sambhava.
Ashandasya cha sambhava.
Atmano bandha moksha cha.
Atmano bandha moksha cha.
Vaisadnanam svarupata.
Vyavastanam swarupataha.
Yovanushtayinam sarga.
Sarga.
Vashandasya cha sambhava.
Vasandasya cha sambhava.
Atmano bandha moksha cha.
Atmano bandha moksha cha.
Yashavashtanam svarupata.
Yavastanam svarupata.
Yovanusayinam sarga.
Yovanusainam sarga.
Pasandasya cha sambhavaha.
Pashandasya cha sambhava.
Atmano bandha moksha cha.
Atmano bandha moksha cha.
Vyavastanam svarupataha.
Vyavastanam svarupata. Okay, we'll go to the word for word. This is text 22 of Canto 8 of Canto 2, Chapter 8. Ya. Yeah, all those.
All those.
Va.
Va.
Either.
Either.
Anushayinam.
Anushayinam.
Merged into the body of the Lord.
Merged into the body of the Lord.
Sarga.
Sarga.
Creation.
Creation.
Pashandasya.
Ashandasya.
Of the infidels.
Of the infidels.
Cha.
Cha.
And.
Sambhava.
Appearance. Atmana. Of the living beings. Bandha. Conditioned. Moksha. Being liberated. Cha. Also. Yavastanam. Being situated. Svarupata. In an unconditioned state. Translation. Please also explain how, merged in the body of the Lord, living beings are created and how the infidels appear in the world. Also, please explain how the unconditioned living entities exist. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The progressive devotee of the Lord must inquire from the bona fide spiritual master how living entities merged in the body of the Lord again come back at the time of creation. There are two kinds of living entities. There are the ever-liberated unconditioned living beings, as well as the ever-conditioned living beings. Of the ever-conditioned living beings, there are two divisions. They are the faithful and the infidels. Of the faithful, there are again two divisions, namely the devotees and the mental speculators. The mental speculators desire to merge into the existence of the Lord or to become one with the Lord, whereas the devotees of the Lord desire to keep separate identities and constantly engage in the service of the Lord. The devotees who are not fully purified, as well as the empiric philosophers, become conditioned again during the next creation for further purification. Such conditioned souls become liberated by further progress of devotional service to the Lord. Maharaj Parikshit asked all these questions from the bona fide spiritual master in order to become fully equipped in the science of God. Om Anganatimmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sayitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakaupatayubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, entitled Questions by King Parikshit, Text 22. Yovanushainam sarga pashandasya chasambhava atmano bandha mokshalcha vyavastanam svarupata. Please also explain how, merged in the body of the Lord, living beings are created and how the infidels appear in the world. Also, please explain how the unconditioned living entities exist. Maharaj Parikshit is continuing to ask questions, and this is it's actually natural for the awakened spirit soul to be in that spirit of discovery, to bring that which is unknown to awakening, to knowledge. And he might say in the conditioned state, the spirit of discovery, it's mode of goodness, and that which is covered, the diamond is covered by dirt and dust and mud, and we got different self-deceptions and masks and grungy stuff and all that, and then we bring that which has been suppressed and repressed, unconscious, to the conscious surface. And then in the liberated state, like Maharaj Parikshit, so the same process is there, but the process is no longer born of the modes of nature, like removing the ignorances of and passion. But in the fully liberated state, in the fully enlightened state, pure devotion, then the soul even more fully is every moment eager for deeper, fuller realization and awakening about spiritual truth, about the form and pastimes of the spirit souls in immortality, about the spontaneous play of devotional love with Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. So it's the same process, and it's just in the material conditioned life that spirit of discovery is mostly about getting us out of the modes of nature. And then in the pure devotional state, then it's not like inquiry stops. Then that spirit of discovery is in Shuddha Sattva, pure devotion, pure goodness, untinged by Rajas and Tamas. Then truths about eternal absolute reality, form, pastimes of Vaikuntha and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are revealed within the heart more and more fully. And Prabhupada starts the purport with this term, the progressive devotee. I like that term, meaning Prabhupada often says, Krishna consciousness, it's never stereotyped, it's never hackneyed, it's never stagnant. Right? So it's as Sanjaya says towards the end of Bhagavad Gita, just witnessing and narrating this conversation between Sanjaya and Krishna, it's a thrill at every moment. So progressive devotee, not like, okay, yeah, well, I chant these rounds, I'm a devotee. But there's this in actual devotion, there's this eagerness to progress out of the modes of nature, to cleanse the diamond, to understand more and more. And Maharaj Parikshit is embodying that spirit of spiritual discovery. And then Prabhupada ends the purport by saying that he asked all these questions from the bona fide spiritual master. So just like in any topic, in any subject, if we're going to ask, we need the sincerity and enough intelligence to know where to ask, And so it's described, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasadi Paya Bhakti Lata Bij, that the living entity, the living entity conditioned, meaning that we're misidentifying our eternal spiritual spark, our eternal spiritual self with a material body. Bayam dutiya biniveshata syat. The root cause of all anxiety, the root cause of all fear is misidentification of spirit with matter. So living entity in the sojourn is traveling throughout the material universes through 14 planetary systems, many universes, 8,400,000 species. And the fortunate living entity is fortunate to meet a bona fide spiritual master. So Prabhupada uses this term so much, the bona fide spiritual master, which means there are spiritual masters in quotes, spiritual teachers in quotes, that are not bona fide, that are not authorized. And so we need like enough sincerity and intelligence to recognize a bona fide spiritual teacher. Very important. There are lots of unauthorized spiritual teachers that maybe have some charisma or something or other. And so otherwise we can, even if we have some sincerity, we'll get cheated. Shruti Smriti Purnati Pancharacha Vidimbida Aikantiki Harer Bhaktim Utpataya Vikalpade. That's a verse Prabhupada quotes a lot from the Goswamis, saying that that even in the realm of devotion, even in the realm of bhakti, even in the realm of Krishna consciousness, there are different deviations. So Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mama piyantite. He says, to one who's sincere, I'll give the intelligence by which that soul can come to me. So intelligence and sincerity, and our main job is sincerity. Our main job is sincerity, because Krishna says, okay, if you're sincere, I'll give you the intelligence, even if you're on your own, your mind and intelligence aren't like working so well in this lifetime. But Krishna says, I'll give the intelligence. And it's like, so like Krishna, Prabhupada uses that term. So the devotees of the Lord desire to keep separate identities and constantly engage in the service of the Lord. So we get to look, how sincere am I? Because it's, yeah, I want to serve God. Okay. Yeah, I want truth. I want to serve God. These things are easy to say. Okay. And then how much are we sincere? Like 100%, that's what I want. And that's always what I want. Right? To serve God with sincerity. Okay. Or to what extent do I have other agendas going on? And so this is our introspective process. Bhagavatam starts completely rejecting Dharma project accord for trap harmonium and Saranam Satam Vejam, completely rejecting all religious activities which have other agendas, material motivations. This Bhagavatam is for those devotees who are thoroughly pure in heart. It distinguishes reality and illusion. So how much is that our sincere desire? And so it's described in the Vedas, Tasmad Gurum Prapadyate Jigyasu Tre Uttamam Shabde Pare Chanishnatam Brahmanupashanashrayam. So that describes that if we are sincere, like that's really what I want. I really want knowledge about the soul, about God, about the process of getting liberated from material suffering. I really want that. Then it's described, then approach a bona fide spiritual master. The term guru can be used here. A bona fide teacher who is realized, Shabde Pare Chanishnatam Brahman Upashanashrayam, who is realized in the conclusions, the Siddhanta, the conclusive truth of the Vedas. What is the conclusive truth of the Vedas? Kiba Vipa Kibanyase Shudra Kene Naya Ye Krishna Tattva Veda Say Gurahaya. That Lord Chaitanya says that whatever someone's birth, whatever someone's socioeconomic class, whatever someone's gender, whatever someone's, that's not essential. The important thing is if one is realized, if one has mastery, Ye Krishna Tattva Veda, in the science of Krishna, then such a person is qualified to be a bona fide spiritual master. Bhagavad Gita describes Vedeshta Sarvera Hameva Vedyo Vedanta Krit Veda Eva Chaham, that the goal of all the Vedas, the goal of all the paths of yoga is Krishna. The goal of all the Varnashram system, meditation systems, is to come to devotional service to the personality of Godhead Krishna. So, someone can talk about Bhagavad Gita, someone can talk about yoga, you can go to the yoga studios. Okay, so how much there is there study about Krishna? Okay, and we can see that, so Prabhupada will say, the bona fide spiritual master is addicted to Krishna. Okay. So we can see, again, there are so many like Bhagavad Gitas that came in Western languages, and they were appreciated for hundreds of years by the Europeans, by the Americans. But no one, or practically no one, by studying those Gitas, became like, I'm going to give my life to serve Krishna. Like no one. Then Prabhupada came with Bhagavad Gita as it is, and then we got the whole revolution in consciousness. Let's become devotees of Krishna. Let me give my life in that direction. And that's because the translator and the purport, or Srila Prabhupada, is a devotee of Bhagavad Gita. No other agenda. Like, I'll become a famous scholar. I'll come up with this idea, that idea. Simply wants the readers to manmana bhavaban bhaktu madhyaji mam namaskru mami veshasya yuktayam admanam prayanam, to absorb your mind in Krishna, offer obeisances to Krishna, become a devotee of Krishna. And of course, we learn how to become a devotee of Krishna by going through the master, the spiritual, the one who's mastered devotion to Krishna. That's Srila Prabhupada. So Maharaj Parikshit's inquiring, and Prabhupada talks about, well, Prabhupada indicates the, because like even let's call it those who will tend to accept the impersonal aspect of the absolute as supreme. Well, there's also some sincere desire there for liberation from birth, death, old age, disease. So there's something pious about that. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Vida Bhajante Mam Jana Sukritin Arjuna Artoji Gasar Artar Tibra Agani Chabharatar Shabha. He describes, there's 4 types of pious people who tend to approach God. And there's one who's in want of money. I need more money. One who's wants relief from distress. Maybe I'm diseased or my family members are suffering. So please God, okay. And then there's one who's, I'm simply curious, or one who really wants knowledge. And Krishna says they're all pious. They're all like any sort of motivation other than to simply please Krishna is not fully pure, but still it's a healthy direction. It's a healthy direction. So Prabhupada distinguishes here between, responding to Maharaj Parikshit's question, like between personalist and impersonalist. There's a place in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says there's really no conflict between personalism and impersonalism. And in another place, Prabhupada says there's the personalist, there's the impersonalist, and then there's the devotees. Meaning, the devotees aren't interested in like a political camp or a spiritual camp, right? Devotees appreciate all aspects of Godhead, right? The non-personal, energetic, Lord in the heart, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Still, so there's no distinction. Vedanti tat tattva Vedas tattva myajgan madvayam brahmiti paramatmiti bhagavaniti shabdyate. There's no distinction. And there are distinctions. It's like, okay, so many non-personalist approaches, many of the Buddhist approaches or the yoga approaches, the idea is like to come to realization that, attempts at material enjoyment are illusion. They're illusory. It's like someone can be chasing a mirage in the desert. All right. Prabhupada gives the example: an animal might be chasing the water in the mirage. And then the animal might just run and run until it dies of exhaustion. And so that's some spiritual realization, some beginning of realization that fulfillment, peace, bliss, joy through material life is futile. It's a mirage. It's all a mirage. It's all an illusion. And many philosophers, many poets, many songwriters, have realization about that. So that it's all a mirage. There's no water here. But then they come to such philosophers come to the conclusion, there's no water. But that's not true. Okay. It's true. There's no water in the desert, or maybe you get a drop of water. Okay. Maybe like we're really dying of thirst and here's a drop of water. Oh my God, this doesn't do it. So even Bhagavad Gita talks about happiness in the mode of ignorance. but the word happiness is used, so there's something there, like a shadow. Wherever there's a shadow, there's the real thing. So, so a mirage indicates there is the real thing. So there is water. There is water. It's just not in the desert of material life. And so okay, where's the actual water? Well, that opens the door to bhakti. That opens the door to bhakti, to that spontaneous play of devotional love. Spontaneous play of devotional love. And then that is the real, or that's the enduring platform for liberation. Because what's described here, so they're talking about, well, like this about, again, like the universal body. There's a lot here in the second canto, universal form. So we can think just like this body, inside there's all sorts of cells and germs and worms and stuff. Okay, so similarly, we, the living entities, we're like germs and worms and cells of the universal body, the universal form of the material universe. That's very appealing, I know. All right, so, but that's what it is. That's what it's like. So just like we, like that. So we're like this little germ on the universal body. And then we're traveling on the, through lifetime after lifetime. And then what we're, okay, to reduce it, we're convinced, we're thinking that the real problems are what's for lunch today. That's the eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Okay? Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And how will I eat, sleep, mate, defend? Okay. And me and thing and those connected with this body, like that. But the actual problems, Prabhupada emphasizes this again and again, the actual problems are not eating, sleeping, mating, defending. The actual problems are birth, death, old age, and disease. And to get out of this cycle and of birth, death, old age, disease, these are the actual problems. Because even if for today, or even for this 40 years, even if for my whole period of retirement, after I'm 65, even if we got eating, sleeping, mating, defending solved, okay. So then the spirit soul, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajityante kalevam tam tam eveti konti sadatat bhava bhavita. Spirit soul take another body to deal with another set of eating, sleeping, mating, defending problems. Spirit soul take another body. This is very scientific, logical, rational. Right? So according it's the essence of clear intention. Just like we know that my intention today forms my reality tomorrow and next year. And so my intention in this body forms the next body. We're forming our next body right now. And so, so even if one has some, and this is described in this question and answer here, that, so even if one has some realization of, let's call it the, of radical non-duality, Advaitavad. But there's a verse Prabhupada quotes a lot from Bhagavatam. Yune Ravinda Kshavi Mukti Maninas Tvayasta Bhava Ravi Shuddha Buddhayo Aruya Kritrina Prampramta Patantya Dona Drita Yushmarangrea. That's still Avishuddha Buddha. The intelligence is impure. There's still some envy in the heart, even if one has transcended most all desires for I'll enjoy through eating, sleeping, mating, defending. I'll enjoy through crushing my enemy. I'll enjoy through getting people to appreciate me, profit, adoration, distinction, different gross and subtle material enjoyments. Even someone's transcended that. And then the idea is to either merge into the void, which there is no void, right? There is no void. We can't avoid the fact that there's no void. And so we, or merge into the oneness. But the nature of the soul, again, is to serve Krishna with love and devotion. To serve Krishna with love and devotion. And so that's what we, again, get to look at. That the devotees, the devotees of the Lord desire to keep separate identities and constantly engage in the service of the Lord. Keep separate identities. We sing, Chakudandi loye janme janme Prabhu say. He opens my eyes with transcendental knowledge. He fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is my birth after birth. He is my Lord, birth after birth. Lord Chaitanya prays, Janmane Janmane Shri Bhavta Bhakti Hetu Hitvai. This is the consciousness. Yes, this is the consciousness of the soul in devotion. Consciousness of the soul in devotion. That I don't want to lose my identity because I'm frustrated with trying to enjoy matter. I'm not going to enter into a spiritual path or philosophy where I get to commit spiritual suicide. Now this kind of like merging into the body of the Lord at the time of the universal annihilation. It's a sort of liberation, just as we discussed a few weeks ago. Deep sleep is a sort of liberation, right? We're liberated from the mind. We're liberated from the body in deep sleep. And we got cheering and applause from Ladini Shakti, yes. But deep sleep is not necessarily enduring, steady liberation. Neither is this merging for 311 trillion plus years in the body of Vishnu. But so in a sense, in that universal annihilation, it's a sort of deep sleep. The living entities are no longer connected with their mind or body in a gross sense. But then after the inhalation of Vishnu, then there's a whole nother creation, and the living entity's karma is awakened. And just as when we awake in the morning, we have awareness that we were unaware in deep sleep, but it's not like we didn't exist. We have awareness. Oh, there I was, unaware. I slept like a rock, right? But then all the karma comes back. Oh yeah, I need to get to the bank. I need to pay. Oh, I have that appointment. Oh, okay. So for enduring liberation, that's entering again into this spontaneous play of divine love in service to Krishna, not ignoring, not denying, not neglecting our spiritual personality, our eternal spirit of discovery, our eternal nature to play and dance and serve without inebriety. And so you might think, well, dear Govinda, you're using all these words, divine love, spontaneous play. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. And yeah, so then that's where that's the process is sadhana. So sadhana means practice. Like, yeah, I'm not like there in that spontaneous play of divine love or something in Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan. And then sadhana means we practice. We practice doing what the soul does in full enlightenment, in full pure devotion. We practice. That's sadhana. And we get guidelines for how to practice from the bona fide spiritual master, our current link, our current acharya, our current link to the Parampara, Srila Prabhupada. And so because what those who are fully enlivened, fully alive in devotional service with no material contamination, what are they doing? They're chanting and hearing the glories of Sri Krishna with Krishna in the center. So we're practicing that like right now by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is basically, it means that the biography of the personality of Godhead, the biography of the personality of Godhead. So by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, by endeavoring to use the home we live in, the body we live in, the mind we use for thinking, using our resources, using the time that's given to us in Krishna's service, especially the services of chanting, hearing, and remembering, then we are practicing engaging in the activities that the residents of the spiritual world engage in. And as we practice, just like we practice anything, we get good at it. We practice, we get good at it. And so that's the important role of sadhana bhakti. It's described in the Bhagavatam. Svaipum samparo dharmo yato bhaktirat hokshaje aitukya pratiyata yayatma suprasidati. That the eternal Dharma, this term Dharma has become pretty well known, the eternal Dharma for all living entities, not just human beings, all living entities, is devotional service to Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. And as we like to emphasize, clear intention means like if our clear, like, yeah, that's really all I want, to engage in my eternal Dharma of devotional service to Sri Krishna, then nothing material can get in the way. No pandemic, no pandemic, no illness, not even the mind having a bad day or a bad decade, or nothing. Okay, the spirit. We say that right in the foundational course. Spirit is superior to matter, and that's what it means. That's what it means. That when we're sincere about spiritual service, nothing material can get in the way. So that's so exciting. That's so empowering. It can also be a little discouraging. Like, well, that means I have no excuses other than I'm just not that sincere. Right. Yeah. So I mean, there's that side of it too. But at least in principle, nothing material gets in the way. And so to come to closure, yeah, it's described in the second chapter of the first canto. Kamasyanan Jaya Pritir Labo Jivete Yavata. Jivasya Tattva Jigyasya Natyasya Karmabhi. That life, the propensity of souls to desire, right? Just like there is no void, there is no desirelessness. Our choice is how to direct the propensity for desire. And Bhagavatam recommends life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification, because human life is meant for inquiry into the absolute truth. So it's encouraged. Yeah, let's engage in self-care, keeping the body and soul together. Self-care, which is different than material self-absorption. And Bhagavatam emphasizes nothing else should be the goal of one's life other than this sort of inquiry into the absolute truth, inquiry into how do I solve the real problems of birth, death, old age, and disease? And of course, not to neglect the temporary challenges of eating, sleeping, mating, defending, not to neglect that. Thousands of times, Prabhupada uses the example. We like this example. We don't neglect the car. We're driving. We have a 20-mile trip today. Oh, I'm going to do a 2-week road trip. I'm going to put on thousands of miles. Of course, we take care of the car. And as we often say, if we hear there was a car crash, we don't immediately ask, oh, is the car okay? Was it totaled? Hope it's not in the junkyard. No, we say, was anyone injured? Was anyone killed? Because we know the driver is much, much more important than the car. Maybe later we'll say, oh, did you get insurance money for the crashed car? Okay, but that's secondary. So similarly, the spirit soul's the driver, much, much more important than this temporary body. right? And so the spirit soul's real opportunity in the human form of life is to co-create with super soul liberation from the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. And then, in the course of that, sure, handle the temporary challenges and to engage those temporary challenges in the ultimate purpose, liberation from birth, death, old age, and disease, which is a byproduct. Liberation from birth, death, old age, disease, and misery is coming from cheating, misery is coming from our own mind. That such liberation, such relief is a byproduct of devotional service. So this verse reads, text 22, chapter 8, canto 2. Yovanushainam sarga pashandasya cha sambhava atmano bandha moksha cha yavastanam sva rupata. Please also explain how merged in the body of the Lord living beings are created and how the infidels appear in this world. Also, please explain how the unconditioned living entities exist. Hare Krishna, thank you for your attention. I see some hands and I see some chat. Ramachandra, hello Ramachandra, there in Mexico. Ramachandra writes, we can't avoid the fact there is no void. I like it, thank you. And Jim Wood, Banjai, making, someday made. Thank you, Jim. And Daru Brahma, I see your hand is up. Daru.
Haribo. Haribo. When you were talking earlier about how people try and enjoy the world and then they end up frustrated because it's not really possible. There is no real happiness in this world. And then you were saying how some even try and give up everything and, worship the void or even just, it's like trying to stop all these activities, stop the mind and stuff. And it reminded me of the famous thing, and I wonder, I haven't heard you say it, but you probably have it before, but I'm just wondering, I love the example of if you're hitting yourself with a hammer and, all these activities we do to try and enjoy like that, all they really do is give us more pain than anything. And then you stop it. How long can you enjoy that pleasure? I mean, at first it's really nice to say, wow, that feels a lot better not doing that, but that's not positive. It's just a negative, stopping a negative, So, what's the positive? And that's what Krishna is serving Krishna. Stopping all the other stuff is just stopping a negative. That's all. I'm sure you mentioned it before, but it just made me think of that. It's a real nice point,
Thanks very much for that, Dara Brahma. Yeah. So Krishna consciousness provides the positive. And that most other places don't even have an idea of the positive. I've never used that exact analogy of the pleasure that comes from stopping to hit myself in the head with a hammer. Never used that exact one. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. I expect I'll borrow it and use it. Yeah, Prabhupada uses analogies like, if someone is dunked underwater, there used to be a punishment for criminals.
Right.
Still is. Someone's dunked underwater, can't breathe, and just before they die, they lift the head up and then gasp. That gasp for breath. This is happiness. This is pleasure. Well, it's not positive happiness. It's just relief from misery. Just like it was pretty miserable being hit in the head with a hammer. So now that I've stopped for a few minutes, this is nice. So, yeah. So, right. And then, so thank you very much. I like that analogy, and I like your emphasis. So devotional service gives the soul positive joy, positive bliss, and it's not just relief from material misery. At the same time, if someone in the material sojourn says, I realize I do want relief from material misery, then they might take to some impersonal path. So there's something positive about that compared to someone who's still trying to be happy through eating, sleeping, mating, defending. But ultimately, one needs to come to devotional service for enduring your bliss that's really satisfying. Thank you. Higher taste.
It also reminded me of one other thing is that the famous that if, for example, well, you're on the highway and you need to go to the bathroom and you finally make it to a restroom, you'll say, "Oh, my life is life is so happy." But actually, it's just a relief of such a great pain. It's not happiness. So that's generally all material happiness is like that. You were starving, you finally put something in your belly, or you haven't had sex in so long, finally relieve that. But it didn't. It's not real positive. Just to remind me of that too. So
Thanks for that. Another great
Yeah.
analogy. Another great analogy. Rest stop on the highway. Great stuff. Thank you, Daru. Ramachandra.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hope my internet connection is good. I'm wondering if you will be willing to elaborate a bit more about the fact that we cannot avoid that there is no void, because something that I was just like more exposed to before I left Alachua is how that was specifically around men, and in the men podcast, how men struggling to accept the void in their heart are trying to fill up the void with either pornography or money or women or fame, and like what's if you see like a correlation that's worth elaborating deeper, I'll appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Right. Well, I mean, one thing is like, let's call it the emotional experience of emptiness and despair and dissatisfaction and experience of hollow, feeling hollow. That's a subjective experience. And then that leads, lacking the higher taste or knowledge of bhakti, devotional service, that leads to, I will try to fill that hollowness. No, I will try to fill that experience of hollowness through proving myself to this person or this group, or becoming famous and like that. But so that's a subjective experience of emptiness or hollowness. Still, if we look objectively, the spirit soul that's experiencing exists, and the material mind exists, and material energy exists. Yes, the forms that the material energy take, this body, this nation, this house, the forms are temporary and illusory. Illusory means so the form, this body, the energy is real, but I'm thinking I am this body, then that's illusory, and the form is temporary. So ontologically, meaning that there is no void. There is no void. The spirit soul that's experiencing loneliness and aloneness and emptiness and hollowness exists. The spirit soul exists. Whereas many approaches in Buddhism or different things, the idea is when one comes to realization, then you realize that you don't even exist. I've never understood how in some Buddhist, of course, the Buddha is an incarnation of Krishna. He came for a particular purpose. We understand that. Not criticizing the Buddha. He did what he did perfectly, no doubt about it. But they talk about transmigration. But what is it that transmigrates if the soul doesn't even exist? I've never had this question answered. I've had many conversations with Buddhists for decades. Those who identify with some Buddhist approach or philosophy. So there is no void objectively. Still, subjectively, just like Lord Chaitanya prays, Yugaitam Yime Shena Chakshusha Prarashaitam Shunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahename. That's a spiritual experience of emptiness and void. Lord Chaitanya prays that he's crying from separation of Krishna, and without attachment to chanting the holy names, one moment feels like 12 years or more, and the whole universe is experienced as void. So that's an experience of void, but it's subjective. It's not objective. Objective, there's always, in every corner of the universe at all times, there's always energy, spiritual energy, material energy. Of course, from the point of view of Krishna and the pure devotees, it's all spiritual. So yeah, even I used to know more physics, but even they used to have this concept that space was a void, okay? And then, if I remember, there were two physicists, two scientists named Mickelson and Morley. It's called the Mickelson-Morley experiment. And I might be a little fuzzy on the details, but this was maybe in the early 1900s or something. And they did some experiment to establish that space is void. But what they discovered is that it's not. And so it's very fascinating, because they discovered it's not, like, even if there's no oxygen molecules, there's no like that. But what they discovered essentially is that space is not void, it's ether. It's come mana Buddha Evacha, that there is some substance. There is some substance, but, and they, through their, it was kind of like a failed experiment where they made this great discovery, Mickelson Morley, so that even in material science, they came to the realization 100 years ago or so that space, even deep space, it's not void. There's some substance, which the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita tells us, it's called kam. It's called ether, the most subtle of the gross material elements. So thank you, Ramachandra. Yeah, so emotionally, subjectively, if we're experiencing void, emptiness, of course, maybe we're at that level of Lord Chaitanya, and it's like, it's a real spiritual experience of emptiness that's bringing us deeper into devotion to Krishna. Or it may be that, it may be that we have some material desires that are frustrated material desires for affection and like that. And then that gets into psychology and therapy and coaching and things like that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I heard the analogy of the car and the car crash. I don't know how many times, hundreds of times probably. And interestingly, not so long ago, I was speaking with my stepmom, and she was sharing how her mom died. And my first reflex was like, was she thinking of God at the time of death? Because I knew her mom was reading the Bible. She was a very fervent Catholic. So my first reflex was to ask, like, was this someone to accompany her? Was she thinking of God at the time of death? And, probably wasn't meeting my stepmom where she's at, because she had been like not understanding her mom at all on that level. But I found that interesting, the parallel between the analogy, and it wasn't like, was she suffering? Because the suffering was still like asking about the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. I appreciate that real life example, Melanie. Yeah, so you're asking about your stepmom's mom, and that's where your that's where your inquiry went. Was she remembering God? That's where, because maybe the body, was she on morphine? Was she suffering? Who was around her? Okay, that's all there. That's all there, but that's kind of around the car, And so for the eternal soul, solving its real problems, that means remembering God at the time of death. So that was your natural spirit of inquiry. I like that. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. I have a question.
Can I just make a quick comment before, just something to close it, if you don't mind, Eze?
Yeah.
Thank you for the reply, Mother Malani and Dhira. So, like, as I understood, that void that the spirit, soul, and the conditional body feels is basically that original separation from God. And unless we just stay with that and experience that void, we will end up trying to fill it up with material pleasure and enjoyment.
Material junk.
Yeah, thank you, Ramachandra. I like the way you express that. Let me experience my experience of loneliness, hurt, pain, void, emptiness, and let that experience move me to whatever surrender and realization that Super Soul wants me to get. And if I'm not willing to experience it, yeah, then I'll numb it by trying to fulfill it by taping sandwiches to my body. You've often heard that. Thank you, Ramachandra.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Dhira, you were just like in the purport, you were emphasizing the importance of a bona fide spiritual master and having the intelligence to discern. And like to me, it sounds like this could easily lead to like rigidity or like sectarianism, kind of like this way is the only right way. And so I'm wondering if you could elaborate some on how this is not a sectarian principle, it could be a universal principle, like somebody from like somebody that is of Christian faith, they could be a bona fide spiritual master if they're sincere, if they're pure, if they have bhakti, et cetera, et cetera. Can you speak more to this?
Okay, thank you, Eze. Thank you. Yeah, well, it's a universal non-sectarian principle. If we want to learn something and really get expert at it, excellent, then we learn from a teacher. It's a universal principle, whether it's about math or playing piano or playing tennis. We learn from someone who knows it really well. Okay, and then so that applies in spiritual life. It's a universal principle, and so that's it. It's not sectarian. It's universal, and so you mentioned the Christian example, right? So Jesus is certainly a bona fide spiritual master, no doubt. Muhammad is a bona fide spiritual master. Okay, and so if someone's sincere and they're sincere, like I really want to follow Jesus, to know God, to love God, to know myself, to come out of illusion. So yeah, so I'm not saying what's sectarian. Like everyone knows it, that if I want to get really good at something, I go to a teacher. I go to a teacher, and I need, there's so many examples we give. That's like, okay, if I want to really get good at physics, so I don't just go to the men's clothing department at Sears and go to the cashier. I'm ready to pay you $30,000. Will you teach me physics? I need enough. I like to find a bona fide teacher for physics. I do not need to be an expert in physics, but I need enough intelligence to pretty much know where to go. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Here's a list of like 100 universities who have physics departments. They're accredited. Here's a professor. Here's a book by someone with PhD. He published 35 articles in top physics journals. I need enough intelligence to know where to go if I want to buy gold, if I want to learn physics. So it is a universal principle. It is a universal principle. I'm not seeing what's sectarian, and yeah. So that's at least the first part of my response. So someone can say, oh, but for self-realization and God realization, I don't need a teacher because God's in my heart and I have all the knowledge within. So I say, true. Okay. And so speaking for myself, yeah, the soul's full of knowledge, including knowledge of how to serve God with love and devotion. How consistently connected am I with that knowledge? Because the whole point of conditioned life means I've forgotten that I'm connected with God in a loving relationship. I've forgotten that. And so it's true that anything, this true spiritual teaching, any wisdom, any guidance, whether it's Jesus or Prabhupada, any true spiritual teacher simply awakens the knowledge within. True, that's true. And at the same time, that's the point. I've forgotten about that knowledge within. I've allowed my diamond to get covered. And so the general process is we go to someone whose diamond is not covered, and they support us. They give us guidance to cleanse our diamond, to awaken that knowledge of bhakti. Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Sajakavanoi Shravanadi Shuddhachitte Karyaudai. Love of God, love of Krishna is, in fact, eternally situated within the hearts of all living entities, and it's awakened by this process of chanting, of chanting and hearing. And so I'm not seeing what's sectarian about the principle.
I guess I didn't so much mean that the principle itself is sectarian, but how it could lead to sort of like my guru is the only bona fide spiritual master, kind of everybody else is not bona fide. And I was wondering if you could put words to like, I don't know how to say, like avoiding that, or how it's not like, because, it can be like, Jesus is the only way, right? It's like, yes, and. It's like, yes, and there are also other ways that are also the only way. So then they're not the only way at the same time. Like, yeah, maybe for this person or this particular group, it is the only way, but it doesn't mean that it's the only absolute way. So I guess I was wondering, because you say it requires enough intelligence to know how to find a bona fide spiritual master. So then what could that intelligence look like? And part of that would be like avoiding the pitfall of sort of like there's only one, practically any fanatic of any religion could say like, I'm right, you're wrong, you're going to hell only if you read this book or if you do this thing. That's the only bona fide way. And that's not true. So how can we identify what is the truth in other traditions or in other faiths without being unnecessarily closed off? Does that make more sense? Sort of
I think so. Yeah, I appreciate where you're going with that. Yeah, Prabhupada, the Vedas, they use the term Kanishta Adhikari, which means kind of like someone who's kind of like a devotee of God, but with a lot of narrow-mindedness. They'll only see God in my deity, in my little group. Really, God or Krishna only exists in my group. So that's narrow-mindedness, and it shows that someone's not mature in their devotion. And so the word is a Kanishta Adhikari. And so Prabhupada encourages us, like, let's come beyond the Kanishta stage. Let's come beyond the Kanishta stage and come to, not artificially, but come to genuinely appreciate Krishna's presence, God's presence, the realizations of those who are not in my group. This whole conception of my group, it becomes a material upadi, a material conception brought into so-called spiritual life. So, Jesus is the only way. So we could say, yeah, there's a truth to that. Like, means bhakti is the only way. What is Jesus's way? Pure, loving, devotional service to God. Yeah, and if someone gets that in a group that calls themselves Sufi, or a group that calls themselves atheist, well, great, because they're following Jesus. So like that. So we want to be on guard for developing a sectarian mentality in the name of spiritual life. Because of my insecurity, I need to think my group's the best or something like that. So I know, like, okay, like I was living in Islamic villages for a few years, late 80s, early 90s. And I was, had so much interaction with spirit souls and bodies called Arab Christian, Arab Druze, Arab Islam, Muslim. And I was so inspired by their realizations. I'm like, well, they can't have realizations. They're in this group. They belong to that organization. Oh, no, we want to develop the consciousness to see through that and see what's really the quality of someone's heart in relation to self-realization, in relation to devotion to God, in relation to realizations about material energy. And yeah, and someone, yeah. So that's my basic response. And someone can be in my group, but maybe them and myself have far less realization than someone else in some other group who might have some habits according to time and circumstance that that we don't follow. So I know myself, I stand, I'm encouraging people to to find their authentic spiritual path, following Srila Prabhupada to develop pure devotion to Krishna is a bona fide spiritual path. I'm not saying Prabhupada is the only one. Prabhupada's the only way. And because sometimes but that's not the only way. Okay, well, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it's a way. I'm saying it's a way that definitely 100% works. But now sometimes in the name of, but there's many ways. The real purpose there isn't to deepen realization, to deepen understanding of how can I progress in cleansing the heart and spirit. The real purpose is to shut down conversation. The real purpose is to shut down conversation. Oh, but there are many ways. Okay, so what way do you follow, and way to what? Because if yes, well, I follow this path. Okay, well, my understanding of the Vedas is that the ultimate goal is pure love and devotional service to Krishna. Does your path claim to take you there? What? No. Okay, so it's a way. It's a way, but it's yata mata tata pata, which means all paths lead to the same goal. No, wrong. I mean, just practically, if I purchase a ticket to fly to Toronto, it's not going to get me to Mexico City. Okay, it's like it's not that all paths lead to Mexico City. This ticket will take me to Paris. This one will take me to Los Angeles. So first of all, the way to what? Let's get concrete. The way to what? Let's get concrete. And then let's look soberly, without attachment to my way. I'm right, you're wrong. Let's just look soberly. What is your goal? And your goal doesn't need to be my goal. What is your goal? And what's your path? What's your path to get there? And not all goals lead to the same place. That's usually something that's all goals lead to the same. Wrong. It's ridiculous. And so let's have a sober discussion. It's not about me being right or me being better. Let's have a sober discussion. What's the goal? Is your goal that when this body dies, there will be no more rebirth? What happened? What are the activities of the soul? Because what we're looking at here in Gaudiya Vaishnavism is the soul engaging in its eternal rasa with Krishna in loving devotion. Here's a path following Srila Prabhupada to get there. It definitely works. We're not saying it's the only way. So what's your goal? What's your path? Who's your teacher? What's your line? Let's have a discussion.
Hare Krishna.
Hold on. Part of Ezzy's question at the very beginning of his question, he said, it says there's a Christian who have learned devotional service, who have learned the Bible, who have learned everything about Christ, is your bona fide spiritual master. And I was wondering if you could say something between spiritual master and a bona fide spiritual master, and if there is a distinction between the two. Will
Right.
a Christian person who know everything about Christianity be a bona fide spiritual master, according to the definition of bona fide spiritual master or not? And is there a difference? Because Lord Chaitanya tells us to all be spiritual master.
He tells us what?
To all be a spiritual master.
Oh, yeah, Yare de Katari Krishna Pradesh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So so Jesus is a bona fide spiritual master. If someone is genuinely following Jesus, then they are also qualified to be a bona fide spiritual leader. If in the name of Jesus, just like if in the name of Prabhupada, someone is doing some deviant stuff, then they're cheating. They're not teaching. I'm not sure if I'm responding to the question, but of course, in like the line of Jesus, then a challenge can be to find a bona fide parampara, as we know, like, because even we've had sincere followers of Jesus come to Marie and David to figure out what their sadhana is. I'm telling the truth here. We have bona fide followers of Jesus who did not become followers of Prabhupada, but from their parampara, their church, they didn't know what to do other than I believe in Jesus. What do you do? Then they came to Malini and Dhira Govinda, and they figure out, oh, let me get up early and have a morning program. They're not reading Bhagavatam, they're reading Bible. Okay, let me chant the names of God. Let me chant the name. So they really developed a sadhana, a Jesus sadhana, based on their experience with our Bhakti Yoga sadhana programs given by Prabhupada. So in the line of Jesus, sometimes it's challenging to find like a parampara where it's really clear, what do I do to come closer to Jesus, other than say, I believe.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Parampara Das.
I think, did Ladini, maybe she had her hand first, I'm not sure.
Okay. Ladini Shakti.
Thank you, Parampara Prabhu. Yes, I had my hand first. And I wanted to say, like, to this sectarian point of view, to this, like Prabhupada is the guru and like that. So I think it's natural for us conditioned souls to think like in sectarian ways, like we like that, like I belong to this group, and then I start to practice some spiritual life. So then I just take the propensity with me. I can see like the longer I practice, the less I think in this sectarian terms, but it doesn't mean that people don't think of me, like they don't want to put me in the box of like, yeah, she's Hare Krishna or something. So, but I just like think it's natural. That's what I wanted to say. And also like what really attracted me to this path is how I like view Srila Prabhupada and also yourself and Malini as insectarian, because like I was always like, when I tried to join some spiritual path, I was so turned off by the feel of sectarian. And then Srila Prabhupada says in so many places, like this is not about like converting someone. And if you have your name of God, like chant those names of God, and like it's not about changing. The religion is about following. Like so many times it's like it's not about converting Christians. It's just like let them stay Christian but follow Jesus.
Yeah.
And so it's just like for me personally was like so attractive to join this cult and then become sectarian in that afterwards. But anyway, so it's both there. Like Srila Prabhupada is, I view him completely non-sectarian, and that attracted me. And also it's natural for the conditioned soul to like want labels and boxes, and my group is better than the other group. So
thanks very much for that sharing, Ladini Shakti. I very much appreciate your sharing. Yeah, material life means I'm number one. Even as I'm the biggest victim, bigger than all of you. I'm the whatever, I'm number one in some way, I'm the most attractive, I'm the strongest, I'm the most humble, whatever. So we bring that to spiritual life, that my spiritual group, and it becomes about me. It's not about God. It's not even about Prabhupada. It becomes about me and like that. And then, yeah, like I was following on what you said, there's like when Prabhupada was in Iran, he would say, yeah, they don't need to chant Hare Krishna. They're chanting the names of Allah. They're good. They're good, you know, like that. So Prabhupada is truly, completely universalist, non-sectarian. Paramparadas.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, I was thinking when you were responding to Eze, dear Govinda, and you were saying, you know, basically the comments like, oh, my group's the best. I was thinking, well, isn't our group the best? Isn't that why we're here? Because this is the best, you know, and then, but then I thought the further distinction between, you know, the process and, you know, the followers or myself, the practitioners in the process, that, yeah, we do have the best process. And I think it's, you kind of, you have to accept your process as the best. Otherwise, why would you do it? It's like, well, if it's like, I'm doing this process, but actually this other process is the best, but I'm not doing the best part, I'm doing this process. No, that doesn't make any sense. So it's kind of inherent that you need to accept your process as the best, or at least the best for you.
Yeah.
You know, personally. And then I think maybe it can relate to like Bhagavad Gita, like, you know, it's better to do one's own work imperfectly than to do another's work perfectly. And it's like that someone may be able to progress further in a different path, even though maybe it's not as perfect as a path or a process, but somebody may be able to progress further in that path than I would. You know, for example, that maybe like we might experience others from a different process or a different path and say, wow, they're so much more pure-hearted than me. What's that about? Is their process better? It's not necessarily that their process is better, but just that it's like, you know, it's more fitted to their, you know, psychophysical nature or whatever like that. And so that helps me to understand, it's like, well, yeah, we need to think our process is the best, or at least for ourselves, because otherwise, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? But then it's the distinction between, but it's hard. Yeah. But still our group is the best. Like our parampara is the best. Our acharyas are the best. Like that's healthy to feel like that. Like Prabhupada's the best. And then, but there's some distinction that needs to be made, you know, between myself and maybe other devotees. We still see, yeah, the other devotees in our sangha, they're the best, but then with ourselves, we kind of, there needs to be some distinction there to like, I'm not necessarily the best. I may be following the best process, but that doesn't mean that I'm the best like that.
Thanks. Very, very important points. Thank you, Parampara. Relevant personal and philosophical points. Yeah, that of all the associations on the planet, the best is the Sapphato Bhakti Yoga Association. Now, meaning this is the association that I'm most attracted to, right? This is the best association for no, I'm sure it's not. But it is the association I'm personally most attracted to. That's why I do this every day with this group. That's why I do this every day. And I appreciate your book, because one thing is the process being most complete and highest, and the other thing is the person. So for example, I'm going to say objectively, there's more information about God coming through this parampara, through the 6 Goswamis. There's more information about the pastimes, the nature, the qualities of God and God's energies in this parampara coming through the 6 Goswamis than, let's say, than in the Krishna parampara. Now you say, well, that's just not, but I am making that statement. I'm saying that that's absolutely true, in the same way that the calculus book includes the arithmetic book and has more information. And so I'm ready to be true. I'm not closed-minded. I'm ready to be like, if in the Christian tradition or Judaic tradition, you want to show me where there's more extensive, nuanced philosophy about the science of God, I'm ready to hear and be proven wrong. But now, just because in this parampara there's more knowledge, more information coming down about the process of the science of God, again, it doesn't mean that, like me, who am making some attempt to practice the process, it doesn't mean that I'm further along than, let's say, a sincere Christian who, again, the process might not have all the nuances of integral calculus, but his or her heart might be so much more pure than mine, probably is. They might be so much further along the path of childlike, innocent devotion to their spiritual master, Jesus, than I am to Prabhupada. Still, in this line, there's the subtleties and the extensiveness of the philosophy about the science of God is more extensive. That's an objective fact, unless someone shows me otherwise. But that doesn't mean that the practitioners of this process are more advanced. In fact, because I'm following this process, which has such extensive information about the science of God, that means I'm great. And then I get all this arrogance, and then just someone who's simply following another process, which might not have all that advanced calculus stuff, but they're so much dearer to God than am I. So thanks for those distinctions. Tyler, I'd seen your hand up.
I did. Yeah, I did have it up. Well, yeah, I was inspired with Parampara's sharing. And I think for me, it does bring up there's like some doubt, or there's some, that's where I can see how that plays in my mind. Like he was sharing, seeing someone from a different path, or I was it came up, and then I thought, well, I put the lower hand button because I thought maybe this is something I could just reflect on more deeply within myself. But not exactly sure. Just that resonated with me. And I think that's part of my process, is being, finding discipline, sticking with a process, sticking with this path, and at the same time understanding it's a process, and doing, maybe following something that just feels good in the moment might seem nice. And I fall into that trap sometimes. Like there's this illusion that that's where some doubt comes from. It's like, oh, I'm kind of sticking with this, I'm doing this every day, and it starts to feel a little dry sometimes. Maybe I should just go with the flow. And there was this time I was going with the flow, and it felt really good. And so that kind of related to what Parampara was sharing about what's good for me right now, and what path, is best for me. And that was what was coming up for me. So thanks for the opportunity to share.
Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate your sharing. I'm saying there's the metaphor of we can dig many shallow wells and never hit water. But if we commit, I'm going to dig here, then we hit the source of water that's the spring for all the wells. And so you're looking at, you can have a propensity to this looks good, this good, and it might be good, it might be nice, but then your process for solid progress might be to do the austerity and discipline of committing to a particular practice. Thank you, Tyler. We can close with one more comment. Dhira, you had a comment?
Just a teeny little one that I looked up. Mickelson Morley. It's 1887.
1887, thank you. That's the physics experiment that revealed that ether space is a real substance. It's not void. Thank you, Dhira. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.